Hey, what's up, guys? I hope everyone had a great day today. And one of the things I love saying in my videos nowadays is like the more I tell my story, the more profound it's going to become, because a lot of times I just don't know. I don't know how to put the story together, right? I'm all over the place. But the more I tell it, the more it's going to make sense for you guys, because that's the whole point. That's my purpose. That's my only purpose in this life. So you're able to hear my story, and maybe some of you are able to resonate with it, because I know there's people that are going to resonate with my story for sure, 100%. Not with everything, but with the things that I went through, they're like, okay, I can relate to that, right? So, with that being said, guys, a lot of it is transparency and acceptance. The more transparent we become, the more acceptant we become towards ourselves. The whole concept of life is accepting ourselves, because without acceptance, we're absolutely nothing. The key to life is acceptance. And as we accept ourselves, we also learn to navigate through life, and we also navigate through growth spiritually. The whole concept of life is understanding yourself, accepting, loving yourself, and growing spiritually in certain areas of your life. Truth is, you don't have to grow spiritually if you don't want to. It's truly up to you. But my story is, I came here when I was 7 years old. From 3 to 7 was my mom and my grandma in Honduras. I call her mama. She's she took care of me. She gave me life. And it was an amazing time in my life. At 3, my dad came here. And one of my lessons behind all of it was just understanding that over there life was pretty perfect, in the sense of like, I lived in a nice house. We also, I went to private school. We also had mates. Life seemed pretty good, seemed pretty perfect, right? But with that being said, like there was poverty in the country itself. Like, we lived in a nice house, and right next door there's people living in a river. Like their house was made out of like mud or like rocks, whatever. Not like Flintstones, but you know what I mean. And that's poverty itself. But in my experience, I was very sheltered, and when being sheltered, like, I wasn't able to expand myself in other areas of my life to grow and really use my creativity. I was limited in so many ways in my life that it hurt me in every area of my life. One of the things I can tell you right now is that I didn't really have a childhood. And without having a childhood, I actually, once I turned 12 years old, I started drinking. And one thing I could tell you about a Latino household, like, drinking is like literally waking up and drinking your water. Not actually, but kind of. My grandpa actually died from alcoholism when I was in August of 1998. I was like about to be 2 years old. So I didn't really get to meet him a whole lot. But from what I know from my grandpa, he would drink for months, and he was a very aggressive man. A lot of ego, very ego driven. But that's what I know from him. And my family, he was a very strict guy. He was a leader for sure. He had a lot of potential, just from like hearing who he was as a person. He just didn't know how to navigate through life to find that potential within himself, right? And that's just lack of education, lack of lack of resources, right? And it is what it is. It's a third world country. Honduras is a third world country, literally. It's apparently one of the most dangerous countries in the world, right? And so with that being said, guys, the alcoholism thing is a big thing in my family. My dad drinks sometimes, uncles drink, everybody drinks. So if you ask me, like, what were some of my biggest influencers, right? It was like family, and like, they didn't know better. I don't blame anybody for anything today in my life, because I love everybody in my family unconditionally. And most importantly, guys, I accept everybody in my family, because everybody is... One thing I can tell you about my family is, like, they may party, they may have a wild lifestyle. It's not that wild. They all work hard. They're all, there's no junkies, like, where they lose their jobs and, like, they just fall into alcoholism. No, like, they drink, they have their fun, but they go to work, They some of them are business owners. Some of them do okay for themselves, They're all in labor work. But they party. But they're like, the thing with them is, like, if something happens to me, they're gonna be there for me, right? But love is there. It's unconditional love. So one thing that I had to come to realize is that I had to accept them fully for who they are, because they'll always be there for me. So once I realized that, and I accepted them for who they were, I started to accept myself, right? Because for a long time I was so in denial of who I was as a person, where I came from, my culture and everything. For what? I came from Honduras. It was so cool. I was only like one of the only redhead kids in my country, and I remember just being so sheltered and not being able to go outside and play with the kids. And that's something that really bothered me, because I just wanted to have that childhood. I wanted to have that childhood experience. And without having that childhood experience, I never really was able to, like, adventure out. But it all makes sense today. It was a dangerous country. And my mom just didn't want anything happening to me. There was one time where my grandma let me out and she let me go play with the kids, and my mom came and, you know, she beat me for that. She beat my ass for that, and I got in so much trouble. But that's something that's so vividly in my mind, where I just wanted to do something innocent and play. But like, my mom did what she did because that's how she grew up. She didn't know better, right? And that's okay. My grandpa was very strict, like I said. And my mom was the leader of 7 children. She was in charge of all her siblings. So she had a lot of responsibility. You know, my mom and my dad, my grandpa did not like my dad. You know, he did not like my dad. And so with that being said, guys, it came to a point where, like, you know, before my grandpa died, my mom had a lot of resentment towards him because of that experience, right? But I was already born, so he was able to meet me, and he actually loved me as a grandson. He got almost 2 years of experiencing some bondage with me, and I think that was really cool. But one thing I got out of this whole situation as a little kid, or even growing up, was like, my grandpa died, and my mom had that resentment where they didn't really like clear the air. So I think there was a little bit of regret. And so I think in my upbringing, the way that she raised me, and then the things that I did in my teens, was just a reflection of how things went with her dad. And the whole concept of our relationship was to build a relationship with me, so the healing for her starts, right? And so the reality of it all is just crazy how it works, right? But for her and I to build that relationship, it took a long time. And going back to the story of it all, guys, I started drinking when I was 12. 13, I was in a psych ward. I was put in a psych ward for being bipolar and depressive. My family, you know, the reason why this happened was because as a little kid, I never really navigated through my emotions. I never really learned how to have a busy lifestyle. I was always with my grandma. I was always thinking. There was so much creativity going in my brain, but there was so much energy built inside of me where I didn't know how to release it, right? So with that being said, guys, I was trapped. And so I came here at 7 years old. Me and my mom came through Mexico. We crossed the border. The story behind it all is like crossing the border, coming together, and one of the most craziest experiences, right? It was a beautiful experience. And I'm grateful to say that nothing happened to us. God was there. He was watching over us. And, you know, one thing about me, I grew up Catholic, so God has always been in the picture. But I never really liked it as a kid. I was just so like rebellious. I wanted to be rebellious just because of like this pretty picture that my family wanted to paint of me, like this perfect little boy. But in the inside, I was just so broken. I remember like in school, in Honduras, they said I had a learning disorder, like a learning disability. You know what I mean? And like I became like the sheep of the family. Technically, all the shame that I started to carry towards myself, everything that like was being said about me, I felt less than, to the point where I'm pretty much useless. So that was the programming that I had as a little kid, coming to believe into that programming into my teens and my 20s too, a little bit. But with that experience, guys, I came to a point where like once I came to America, I was able to see my dad again for the first time in 4 years. And in that experience, I was able to grow in every other areas of my life. I grew mentally, physically, and spiritually. But in that time in my life, I was able to experience going to the lake, going to the river with my dad. We went swimming. He taught me so much. It was so cool. I remember at 9 years old, I told myself, I can't wait to be a teen so I'm able to drink. That's literally what I wanted to do, because I told this kid that we were with in North Carolina, one of my mom's like kids, like her friend's kids, whatever. And this kid was like, he told his mom, he snitched on me. And my mom asked me the next day, he's like, you really want to drink? I'm like, yeah, of course I do. So transparent at 9 years old. And one thing I realized today, guys, is that I just never had a childhood. And without having that childhood, I couldn't wait to, adventure out. And so that's what happened. At 12, I started drinking, and it was just like that effect where I was like, damn, I've been missing out my entire life. And then, 13, like when I talked about the emotions and everything that was just combined together, I had like the episodes of depression. I had ups and downs, and like the depression is just a state of mind where we have so much free time, and then like you just think so much. And mental illness is nothing but a luxury, guys. When you have a mental illness, it's just you have too much freedom. But mental illness is a real thing too. There's people out there that do have mental illness. So I'm not going to talk down on it, but some things are just, we're just able to fix on our own. And the time that we start fixing those things is by taking control of our own lives. But one thing I realized is that when I was at the doctors and they were prescribing me medication, I knew it was a spiritual war, but I didn't know how to get spiritually in tune within myself, right? So in this journey, I had to literally realize that it was me versus me. But I took meds, and I would have highs and I would have downs. And then in having these downs, I literally came to realize that I had to become in tune within myself to the point where I was like, I had to like adventure out. I kept drinking, I kept doing dumb things. But eventually in this journey, guys, I did get sober at 20. And in getting sober, it's been nothing but a spiritual journey. I got what I wanted. God gave me everything, but I've been so ego-based. And with that being said, I had a spiritual awakening in 2024, and today I'm here to tell my story. But like I said in the beginning, the more I tell my story, the more profound it's going to be. I just hope you guys get something out of this, and have a beautiful night. Bye.